Nah, it's the homie that was the good job. Nah, it's peace, Super Heru family. All human families of the planet Earth. You're now tuned in live to Super Heru Radio. I'm your host, Radio-Aseer, along with my co-host, Selena and Empress, 10,000 years, Saga Assad, Amor, Prince Blackhawk, and all of you. Thanks for tuning in once again, coming through.
Right, man.
And what's up?
I benefited from apartheid T-shirt. And it's first major race controversy in South Africa.
That's right. Big up to the white boy who's wearing the I benefited from apartheid T-shirt. It caused so much controversy out there. Thank you. So, like I said, people, love and light. I was just being facetious about that, but it is kind of funny. Sparked a lot of debate, a lot of controversy over in South Africa. This dude is wearing a T-shirt talking about I benefited from apartheid, which is true. And the fact that no members of the apartheid regime, the PW Botha regime, the Nazi South African regime, because none of them was ever prosecuted, and none of them was ever put in jail for the millions upon millions of black people they murdered from the Boer War all the way up until they let out your man, so-called Mandela, whose first act when he became president was basically to divorce his black wife and allow her to get tried for killing traitors. You know what I'm saying? But again, he was Jesuit trained coming up, so you already know. Sorry, those people who are really big Mandela fans. I don't want to burst your bubble, but him, like so many other people who train, again, Jesuit. And sometimes these people be Jesuit trained and don't even know that Jesuits is training them. That's how ill the Jesuits are. But fourth loud Jesuits are worse than 33-degree Masons, because these dudes are just, not only do they know that they don't know shit, but they've just left it all up to knowing the Pope. So they've basically pledged total fealty to the papacy. So you already know they crazy. So you can't deal with that. Some of the other events that's spiraling out of control as we speak now in the so-called world right now is the fact that you have the Zionist state of Israel attacking the quote-unquote state of Sudan. Now, the funny shit is that if Iran was the one that they got beef with or whatever, why is it that they bombing Sudan? Well, that question lies in the fact of what's going on in Sudan and what has been going on in Sudan since it's been popular for a minute, but the destabilization years were in the 80s to the early 90s, and then from the mid-90s to like 2000, that was all about just basically continuing the denationalization of the Sudanese people. You know what I mean? Because what you got to remember back in the days that Sudan was once part of Egypt or Kemet. So that means an attack on that is an attack on Egypt. Attack on Sudan is an attack on Egypt based on the lines of diplomacy and the rules of engagement as it comes to allies. And so the attack on Sudan, like I said, is an attack on Egypt, being that Egypt now has this new democracy this new leader that's allegedly against, that's worse than Mubarak, but he's allegedly against the whole Zionist push in the region, which then is going to create, the people in Mossad will go crazy. So being that Hamas is, again, part of the so-called Muslim Brotherhood, and as we know, the Muslim Brotherhood really comes from the so-called Arabic so-called Muslim Brotherhood created by the Grand Mufti of Berlin in 1935 to around 1935. So towards the end of the war. So these so-called Arabic Nazis had been trained by a guy named called the Grand Mufti. And this Grand Mufti of Berlin was actually a Khazarian Jew. He wasn't even really Muslim like that, but he was propped up based upon the British using him to help destabilize what the Turks were trying to do. So really, you got to realize that when you read the true history of what was happening in terms of the lead up to World War II, you would see that the British had a chance to stop Hitler a couple of times. They had a chance to stop him in Munich, you know what I'm saying? But they didn't do that. They wanted him to basically to run amok because, see, they know, or what the British would like to do, is that they would like to have the what they call the lone nutter, right? Meaning the crazy guy in the front who's leading the crazy nation, when really they're using the fact that he's crazy as a means to disenfranchise him from the rest of his people. So strategically, if we look at the present strata of what Europe was prior to that, like you got to look at maps of Europe before 1900 sometimes to see like what they did in terms of this homogenized, Europeanized, quote-unquote, movement, as if to make the term European a word of art or blanket term to represent anybody that was part of the EU. You know what I'm saying? But remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said EU means hillside, right? And rope means to bind in, right? So when we talk about European, we're talking about those who were put in the hillside, who were bound into the hillside and bound there, meaning that they could not move. So the overall, then, if we're talking about the climate, the social or socio-political climate of the European prior to expansion, which was prior to 1492, it was a very canonized, very localized view of the world. It was very isolated. Whereas the Moors, because we made the laws, we were really not bound to any laws. And so through the years, as things began to progress, our Franciscan brothers, the more that they became, once the Franciscan race of Moors, meaning these quote-unquote hybridized version of Moors that was coming out to people today that we would look at and call Hispanic, when they started coming into fruition, you know what I'm saying? You got to understand, these are still our people. But by the time it got to the, let's say, the mestizo strain, these people began to practice trick knowledge in a whole different manner. Because at the time, you got to remember, we're a global empire. We're globally running everything. So there's really no need or no feel that we are going to be deposed, especially by the people that we help come up. And so there was a practice to disenfranchise Moors from the old republic into the new republic by redesignating them or calling them different names other than what they were initially referred to. And the more Moors you got to refer to themselves by these different nomenclatures, the more things began to switch up. And so the worst thing you can do is take from somebody their good name, you understand, because your whole name is what it is. I mean, if you look at it, for instance, if you take a phrase like African American, right, then the operative word in that subject or that sentence or phrase or word grouping is American, because that would be the surname to whatever's in front of it. So when you speak of Howard Johnson, you know what I mean? If you're going by alphabetical order, you put the last name first, right? Therefore, the listing is based on the last name, not the first name, because the last name is actually really the first name, because that's your surname. That's your sire's name, surname. That's the name that your father was betrothed to you. You understand? So when you create a nick, meaning a cut name, or half a name, nick means cut, to cut, or to slightly cut, or to break in half. When you take the nickname and you nick your own name, then what happens is you are annexing your original name in terms of your nationality to what it is somebody is conforming or would like you to be called at that point, which is by all means your prerogative or anybody's prerogative to do so. The only issue with that, again, is when it comes to your free national inheritance and what it is you are in terms of honoring your mother and your father. The Bible says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land the Lord thy God giveth thee. So if we're looking at the Bible, or let's say the commandments as the Bible, as an aspect of ecclesiastical law, then that means honoring thy mother and thy father is maintaining or holding on to your free national name. You know what I'm saying? Without any hesitation, ifs, ands, buts, maybes. That's just what you got to do, regardless of who or what. But the problem, again, with all of that is most people take God-given names and things like that for granted because we've been brought up by people who have made us believe that the names that we have are not our own. You understand? By using terms, names like slave names and things like that. For all these years, you've had all of these black men and black women coming out telling you to change your name and change this and change that, all this about yourself. Yet the more changing that you've done, and the more name grafting or whatever it is you've accomplished in that, what has really manufactured or what has really changed in the operative sense of your own physical day-to-day woes and worries. You know what I'm saying? How has that changed your actual status when it comes to paying these bills, when it comes to dealing with these beasts, these police, with this implied tacit consent that they try to enforce upon you or coerce you into on the highways and byways of the United States, which, again, is totally different than America. We must always create and maintain that delineation because that's the thing that maintains your own sanity. You have to understand, most American people don't know that there is a difference between the United States and America. Therefore, if they don't know that, then what it is they're doing is that they are functioning in one aspect of the government as if that aspect of the government is the truth, and it's not. Therefore, the truest aspect of the government is that which has not manifested itself as government yet, or as government since 1791, which was us. And it's not that we didn't want to reconstitute our government or do our thing like that. It's just that at the time, things were put in play that made it that much harder for us to reconvene after everything had been switched up. So once we actually stepped out of the building, that's when everything in the building switched up. And we were no longer in the sense and ability to do so because now we had to rely on the interpreter to give us the knowledge. And remember, people always talk about this and that. People always talk about the help and the slave and all that, but you got to understand the help, the butler, the head marm of the school or the house or the head whatever. These are the people who actually have all the secrets of the family, and you got to remember that. But I'm starting to think, like Dr. Yafa Bey was saying, that I'm of the opinion that our brothers or our cousins and them from across the water just started sending their slaves and they dreads over here to get us caught up with them, and then basically put it to us like us. Well, we'll help get these niggas up off you if you agree to allow us to be a part of your republic. And once we did that, we basically started to adopt foreign allegiances that then broke apart our individual allegiances that was already here. So one of the reasons why when you look into so-called Watchtower history, for instance, and you start doing a knowledge to that, as opposed to the other nations that were around or were in contravention to the Watchtower, you would see that some of them had fell out with that because a lot of indigenous or autonomous nations around the Watchtower proper and Doug Mountain land were not really feeling the whole unification with Louis and them. And this caused a big schism in almost a lot of the internal wars. And if you look at a lot of the quote-unquote Indian wars between the French, what they call the French-Indian War or the Spanish-American War, all of these were wars between autochthonous Moors, indigenous Moors, and the foreign Moors who were using Caucasian Caucasian slaves in their gambit to become the dominant factor in terms of how we do business here. And because it was the British, a.k.a. the British, that inherited the so-called Spanish Armada, a.k.a. the Moorish Armada, they were the ones who specifically had a lot to say or put, or let's say imply tacit dissent in terms of the adoption of admiralty law through the same colonies that they were allegedly trying to fight. Like, why would the colonies, if the colonies were different than England trying to be apart from that, why would they support the same system that they were trying to break away from? I didn't. I didn't change my name for my birth name. I mean, on my quote-unquote, if you would say Moorish ID, that's what you say, it'll still say Prince Charles Elizabeth Rogers L. It's just that Aseer Ali Allah L, or Aseer Ali Allah Cordoba, was the name that was given to me again by, wow, such a long story, but yeah, it was customary for people in my family to have what they call a mystic name. And so Aseer was that for me, based upon a biblical verse from Samuel 9:9. And because I was the first one to get back to the family how it was prior to them coming up from Louisiana and all of that, you know what I mean? It was customary to do that. But in terms of like my own paperwork and lineage and stuff like that, like, well, it's funny. It's like when you grow up in the hood, how we grew up, we were growing up under the assumption that these names that sound English belong to white men that our slave fathers adopted. But I'm the third generation Prince Charles. There was a Prince Charles before me and a Prince Charles, my father, and then before him is his father, and before him is his father. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what kind of generational slave thing. Generational slaves get to choose their own name. But for my mom not to like this nigga and still name me after the nigga, you know what I'm saying? It says a lot about the power of the name. So when I did the knowledge to my father's side of the family, I found out that they had, again, Moroccan or Moorish descent blood, as well as blood out of New England. Those New England Moors, meaning the Narragansett, the Nanticoke, you know what I'm saying? And also them people from those Moors that had that Denison blood, whereas my mother and them, they had generationally been Labrie out of Louisiana. So just like everything, you have your Christian name, right, meaning the name that you speak to those nations, those vulgar nations that don't know how to pronounce an original Moorish name, and then you have your given name, right, which is the name that you are called amongst your people. And then you have what's called your mystic name, which is the name that's specifically spoken amongst those people within your tribe. You know what I mean? Just like you have a flag that would represent your nation, a flag that represents you domestically, the flag that represents you internationally, the flag that represents you in commerce, and the flag that represents your empire or whatever that is. And then under all of that, you have the coat of arms or whatever that represents you individually as well as your house. So whenever I got an interface with the beast or any Christian nation, that I have to basically use the so-called birth certificate name, or what the people call your government name, which is really your free national name, then that means that I will be using the one that came on the quote-unquote certificate that my mother handed over to them, that I took back out of their hands and then put back under my jurisdiction, which is Prince Charles Edward Rogers. Okay? However, Aseer Ali Allah is the one that has to deal with the individual people who are or have never been or who don't want to be in that whole quote-unquote cipher of having to have basically two different identities. But when you live in a system or a government that basically has two branches or two sides of it, you're going to have a name that represents you in your original capacity, and then one that represents you so when they start talking to you, they don't have to mess up your name. You know what I mean? I'd rather them use Charles Beverly Bree Rogers or Charles Rogers as opposed to, you know what I mean, in court than using my given name, you know what I mean, my mystic name. Like, they don't need to know that. They don't need to know nothing. Great. You go back in your room, okay? They don't need to know nothing about me other than the fact that I'm not supposed to be up in there. Whereas, unlike a lot of other people in the game, like, you don't know these people's real names. You know what I mean? Like, they don't even put it out there like that. Like, they put it out there like niggas named them. You know what I mean? Some of the titles and stuff. Exactly. Like, anybody already know me, already know that that's always been there. But, again, I like clarity. I've always been me, Aseer. But, or I should say, however, when it comes to doing business, you have a time and a place and a name and a race for everything. So, when it comes to getting jobs and all of that, Aseer Ali Allah might get flagged. But guess what? Charles Rogers walk up in there, you don't know who you're talking about. You know what I mean? And that's the game that we've been playing in this country for the past 250 years. And, again, this is all based upon denationalization. This is what happens when your whole people get denationalized, and then everybody got to figure out how to get themselves back in their proper status. You know? So, like I said, when it comes to dealing with the beast or anything like that, I would always use the name that they are familiar with in their paperwork and all of that, so then that way when I flip it on them, it ain't no thing, and I don't have to put something that does not exist to them in their jurisdiction, such as my mystic name, my free national name, everything else. Technically, they don't even need to know what nationality you are when you're dealing with these beasts, man. The less you tell these niggas, the better, man. That's the problem. We be wanting to be right, and we be wanting to show and prove to these people or whatever, but you can't prove nothing to a savage. Regardless of how civilized that savage is, he's always going to look at things the way a savage looks at things. So you cannot expect water to fall from a stone. You got to go to the brook for that. So, again, when you have these people telling you to be sitting your name and take this and take that out, if they're not giving you a clear and precise or concise reason as to why and what remedy will come from that and what protocols exactly are refined to that and what that does in hindsight after, then, you know, you're leaving yourself open for anything. People don't know. You can mail back your DMV card and your license plate and all that shit. You can literally mail that shit back to the DMV and say that you don't want to participate no more. You can do that. Only problem with that is then you are really out there. You see what I'm saying? Unless you fortify yourself or put yourself back in some type of political or some type of geopolitical standing. However, the governments that are moving or that are going to be coming into this world post December 21st, 2012 are going to be spiritualized governments. These are governments that are dealing with spirituality, meaning that the energy of the ancestors from the top down is pushing this energy and pushing this ancestral agenda. Therefore, those people on earth who are using material gains to push their agenda up further are going to be blocked from the astral, from all of the spiritual energy coming down on them. So that means that if you don't know who you are, if you don't know your name, if you don't know your free national name, if you don't choose what you want to be, then that's going to be chosen for you. Then that's going to get chosen for you. That's going to get, you're going to get put in trick bag, and they're going to basically decide all of that for you. This is the problem with being a stateless person. However, we were never really stateless people. That's the other thing about it. Just because these three nations got together and decided to plot against us in secret and then create these secret agreements while to the rest of the historical world they were at war with each other, don't mean that when they decided that our nationality was no longer to be represented, they only wanted to represent that in that sense. Meaning that they only needed to create, meaning that they only did that amongst themselves, which means that it's like this. It's like right now, like in the movement or in the game and shit. these people in this so-called movement can't get on their side, what they do is they just totally ignore them. They act like we're not around. They act like the shit we talking about ain't even relevant, or like we're not in the cycle because we're not in their face every week and we're not up in their lectures every week. You know what I'm saying? So imagine a situation where you got everything popping, you got everything clicking, and then somebody come to you and say, well, I'm going to set shit up the way that I want to set shit up, how you set it up, but I'm not going to include you in it. And then we're going to get together and do it like you do it, but we're not going to acknowledge the fact that you was the one that did it first. We're going to acknowledge the fact that we are the original ones that's doing it first, and you're basically the slave that came after. So you have to do what we want you to do. As much as people want to talk to you about race, or this is a post-racial America, it ain't even about race now, all this other crap. I just put this thing on my Facebook page the other day about this sister who's been trying to get a job for 2 years, trying to get a job with her own face, again, under her own free national name and all of that. But she's sending it with a picture, or with her black voice. So what the sister gets do, she gets smart and start sending. She get a Becky picture and send it out with her resume and all of that. She said she had to turn down offers. They were sending just mad offers. People she wasn't even applying for the job with was just sending her referrals that other people saw. This blonde-haired, blue-eyed picture, this girl, and her voice sounded mad chipper and all of that she could have, she could get everything. So, again, this shows you, again, that in this post-racial America, with your black president and all that, there's still a deep, deep hatred of darker-skinned people, man. Of lighter-skinned people against darker-skinned people, and darker-skinned people against lighter-skinned people. And I'm starting to think that that's not something that is manifested from the white man. That's something that the white man exploits in us. Because if we really, really keep it real, keep it all the way real, most of these quote-unquote lighter-skinned people, in a sense, were descendants or products or remnants of this Yakubian experiment anyway. But because most people don't believe that thing even existed, they're not looking at the glaring obviousness of what's really going on. When you were talking about the African diaspora, when you were talking about when I was coming up, the thing was called the triangle trade, right? Then that was when I was from maybe 5th grade to maybe 6th, 7th grade, the triangle trade. Then from 7th grade to 10th grade, it was 7th grade to 11th grade, it was the Middle Passage. Then it was let's say from 9th grade to first year of college and shit, it went to the African slave trade, right? Then it went to then we went to the African slave trade. So I'm looking at all these different versions of what this thing is, but when you're really talking about the African diaspora and all of that, when you're talking about all these different people going, and you look at the map routes and the trade routes and all of the different routes that they done got it all together with, all of these maps, if you overlay them, have the same place and the same people in it. So what this is saying to me is that the triangle trade, or the African diaspora, or the African slave trade, which was a trade in POWs from Africa, as well as Slovenians, hence African slave trade, which is totally different than Negro slavery, which is the forced, stateless denationalization of original people. That's 3 different things. And the Constitution deals with all 3. It deals with the abolition of slavery, it deals with the abolition of and the ceasing of African slavery, as well as the stopping of Negro slavery. So again, you're talking about 3 different things, 3 different classes of people. You know what I mean? So now it's to the point where, I don't know if anybody told you, but there was a report where a judge made a ruling for somebody, that Albion actually, that says that all police officers and state officials work for private corporations. This happened 2-3 weeks ago. And that from this point on, all judges, police, and whoever need to find independent insurance carriers to protect them from the impeding lawsuits and egregious assaults on defamation of character and all these different things, charges that will be assailed against them once people start figuring, once this fact becomes public knowledge. So this coupled with the Indigenous Act that for some reason everybody is really hyped. Like, it's still what people get hyped over and what they don't. Like, when the governors, meaning the bays of the quote-unquote Union State Society, put out a proclamation that was called like Moorish American Week, everybody got real hyped because it was like, oh, they recognizing the Moorish Americans. But remember, your surname is what you are. Therefore, the name that's in front of the surname, right, represents who you're married to, right? So, in the name John Smith, the weight and the power of the word is not in John, it's in Smith. You understand? There is no more America. There is no more land in the world. There is no kingdom of the Moors. That don't exist. That exists in the minds and the delusions of grandeur that a lot of Moors are trying to promote out there, as if that really works. That when you say that you're a Moorish American, you're identifying yourself with a direct nationality as they understand it. When Noble Drew Ali, peace be upon him, was talking about Moorish American and all of that, it had a different weight and connotation. You know, not only is what our forefathers did and what them you are today, but the difference between now and then is that everybody today is on some other shit. Everybody back then was coming into this. You got to understand, at the time that we allegedly had the worst treatment in America was when some of the biggest movements that ever existed in America for original people or any people that matter existed in the country. And that other movements, such as the KKK and these other movements, the Chinese National Republic and these things, started coming out and copying what the MSTLA and Holy Temple Science of the World was doing. But it's because there's been always this egregious beef between those of us who want to do it this way and those of us that want to do it that way. What I'm seeing is that eventually these so-called Masons was basically like, yo, we'll play the backseat to this cracker that we propped up to keep you regulars, keep you other niggas from being above us. Y'all niggas is almost too free over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically stick this cracker on y'all, and he's going to slow y'all up. And that's going to give us a chance basically to come in here and figure out how we could basically be a part of this. But then the cracker wound up flipping it on them and blackmailed them and was like, well, look, if you come out and do that, then I'm gonna tell these other niggas that y'all niggas been basically prepping us to do this from when y'all first was drafting us. Just like now, like the United States right now would rather you believe that all the UFOs and shit is aliens and these people from other worlds and stuff, rather than believing that it's just leftover Nazi technology that they brought over, that they was able to bring back over here after the war with all them damn Nazis and teach them how to use it. They'd rather you believe that it's little green men and aliens and all that shit to do that. And they know damn well the real aliens are non-physical. They're not even physical beings, and they more connected to us than them. Any aliens that they dealing with that's in a physical sense, whether reptilian or anything else, is in a subordinate position, even if they do have technological or psychic powers and shit, because any high spiritual being knows that you don't need a physical vessel to travel. The vessel that you travel through the interdimensional, the inner space, or the inner spheres in is the Merkaba. It's you. It's us. These niggas need spaceships to do that. We are the spaceship to do that. That's why anything these niggas want to do in the world, they got to use a black person as a portal to do it. They want you to believe that all black men is gay, so let's get as many black men and give these niggas as many money as possible, so that way when they get on screen or whatever, they'll just be ready to S&D, and then that's it. And then we'll market that to the rest of the world. Now everybody else in the world, all the black men who feel inferior or whatever, look at this nigga and looking at that now as a way out. Niggas is looking at this gay shit as a way out of the hood. The same way they was looking at rap and hip-hop now. They like, look, if I just S&D Or I just let this dude follow me like this or whatever. I might get some money, and then I could basically, move up, and I don't have to be a part of this shit no more. Like, this is the level of the game that it's at now, man. Like, it's really not cool. And because we have instances where, you know what I mean, you have, like you have what you call genetical agents. You have genetic double agents. You have, like, women who, like, have your baby, who will be mad, pro-black, all that, right? Have your baby, and as soon as they have your baby, these bitches just flip back out and then decide to go back home and raise a baby Christian and all this other type of shit. When really they just put that chick in an altar to steal your seed. Same thing, sister. You could be with a pro-black dude, whatever. You ready to raise your baby. You more revolutionary than him. And as soon as you have the baby, whatever, next thing now, he can't stop being around his mama, or he can't stop being outside with his friends, or he can't just be there with you with the baby. So what you got to do is you got to be the daddy and the mom. And then when you hip the nigga to the shit, then he got a problem. He want to get bucks and all this other shit, when really he just can't tell you that he don't feel like a man no more because he's been in a situation where he's compromised his masculinity to get some sort of fictitious power from niggas that he wouldn't even be chilling with if he wasn't trying to get the power in the first place. This is going on in the hood every day. What are any of these movements doing to address that, deal with that? All this paperwork we filing. How many more, all the more that you know that's been filing paperwork, how many more do you know have been filing paperwork with each other to create treaties that recognize each other as individual nations? How many more do you know have done that? How many more do you know are willing to do that? Now how many more sheiks, grand sheiks out here dealing coke prior to them coming into the Moorish Science Temple movement, and they got into it because they figured that could help them get out of the fucking charge? How many niggas was putting up shit on YouTube and all of that about them doing this and that in court when really they in there for moving weight, man? You know how many niggas have set up, how many of these grand sheiks as well as these other motherfuckers have created straight up sex cults and all of this based on this pseudo ritual shit?
What are you cutting this there, boy? Come and show me. How to get five.
This is the reality. This is the move. This is the work. What I'm talking about is the work that got to be done. I'm not talking about the fluffy shit, the extra shit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the shit that has to get done. How we going to have a nation? We can't even decide what flag is ours at this stage in the game. So what that shows me, brothers and sisters, is that this is not necessary for everybody, man. Not everybody is about to get free like this. You know what I'm saying? Like not everybody is down for that. Not everybody's trying to do that. So you got all of these chicks, and again, no matter how wise, no matter how intelligent, no matter how much knowledge you done got and all of that, everybody has been in a situation where they've been victimized or brutalized by the beast in some fashion or another, some more extreme than the other. But don't let anybody make you feel naive for the fact that because you ain't got this file or you ain't doing like this, that you ain't really doing it, or you got to get to the level that they doing it to be fully recognized and doing. Like, all of that is BS, man. All of that is BS because it's about reaching your level of excellence, not anybody else's. And until these niggas come up with a straight-up protocol, like as much problems as these niggas be pointing out, what are the solutions they giving you? They can't give you no solutions because they're not programmed to do that. They're not programmed to provide you with anything of substance that you could actually use in the future. This is about keeping you locked up in a time trap now. It's about you focusing on who's going to win the Thriller Manila big battle royal now. It's about you wondering who's true or who's not. When you be watching, when these people be watching, when these white people be watching CNN and Fox and all of that, they don't be watching that from the assumption, from the presumption that what they watching is a lie. They watch it as if that shit is true. And they know it's a lie. Most of these crackers, they know it's bullshit, but they will allow themselves to be fed bullshit, you understand, to keep this reality going because it's working for them. It's working for them, y'all. And as much as it's over for them, it ain't over soon enough for us. And as quick as it's trying to be over, it ain't moving quick enough for us either. So this is the time when niggas got to make the hard choices. What's going to be respected? What's going to be rejected? Who's going to be seen as providing the real? Who's going to be seen as providing the fake? A people that look for a leader will always be led, you understand, astray. You know what I'm saying? When you ask white people who's their leader, they don't think of one person. They don't think of nobody. They don't think of nobody, really. They think of themselves. The minute you start saying, talking some shit, some cracker, some white man don't want to hear about some real shit, first thing he start talking about is liberty. you trying to infringe on my personal liberty. Then the next thing he knows, he starts talking about his freedom. Then the next thing you know, he pull a Bible out, and then it's the gun, and then it's a rap. Then it's the slaughter. Then everybody dead. Everybody dying. That nigga don't play when it comes with that, man. Cracker is serious because he remember what it was like to sleep in that cave. You don't remember that. You don't have that genetic memory. You don't have those types of problems. You don't have that type of trauma, you're not insomniatic from that. You're insomniatic from other shit. You know what I mean? How I'm going to pay these bills on time. How I'm going to do this. How I'm going to pay for this one's school. How I'm going to bail this one out of jail. How I'm going to get to work because these niggas done impounded my car. That's the shit you think about. These niggas just think about shit like, how am I going to survive in a post-2012 world? How am I going to survive in a world where I am no longer the dominant? How am I going to survive in a climate that is basically killing me? How am I going to survive in this post-2012 sun that is amplified 120 megahertz a day, meaning that it's rising a day in terms of the heat index? So when we feel that, so like black people, when you feel it's hot, to white folk, that heat is like scorching. You don't even know what that's like. You understand? But remember, this whole thing is based, this whole dichotomy, this whole dance, this whole theater that's going on with them. It's all based on bluff. It's all based on an illusionary lie. And it's all based on 580 to maybe 800 years of history that was forcibly removed from your calendar by them and added on to their shit. So that way they could catch up to where you was at, kind of. And that didn't even work. So that's what I'm saying. So, like, all of these different contingency plans, all of these different people working in tandem, all of these secret little groups and talks and stuff like that, all of that stuff is just really window dressing for the fact that these dudes were never really the ones with the secret in the first place. And that all of these different people who have been trying to assuage you and make you believe that they were the ones with the handle on it were really just carrying over a message that was left for them by someone else. Like I said, a wise man knows he was once a fool, but a fool always believes he was a wise man. You know what I'm saying? You know it. So this is where this whole thing is now. So this dude that signed in this so-called act, this so-called act, Indigenous Act, and it's just like, oh well, what does that got to do with us? It's like, okay, y'all got real happy when he said Moorish American, recognized you as that, but now he hollering at you at basically now taking it to another level, saying indigenous. Now I'm not saying that this dude is great or even a good man. I'm just saying that they've been trying to get this thing passed for a couple of years, and everybody been torpedoing it. So for him to sign it right off the cusp of, again, all the other stuff that's happening, I think is a good sign spiritually for us. And it's just a means to an end. It's a way to start the conversation or the dialogue for the fact that these people that's calling themselves Indian ain't that. Actually, they are that, but they not. The original Algonquin people that was here, they not American Indians, because an American Indian, according to Oxford Dictionary, is a nigger. And if American Indian is a nigger and a nigger is a Moor, and niggas are black or Moors, or niggas are nagars, you see what I'm saying? Then that means within this one original designation, we got all of these different races and nationalities that basically came after us. And that's all it really is that nobody wants to really cite the first original man. Because to cite the original man would then mean that you would have to put him at the head. And they don't want to do that anymore because they remember what it was like living up under us for all those millions of years. We would leave a whole society, just leave it. Like, you know what? For the next 10,000 years, we're just going to be agrarian again. We're just going to go back to the woods, and we're not going to think about building mounds and nothing. We're just going to just be in the jungle. You know, when you really speak of the Nation of Islam, too, you got to remember there was 2 experiments that they built on, but mainly most people only talk about the Yaqub experiment. But there was another experiment that they got plus lessons on, and that was the one dealing with Shabazz. You know what I'm saying? Where it said that Shabazz took a group of original people into the cave, into the jungles, and basically taught them how to live, in a sense, a jungle way of life, meaning that the people who was around prior to that, you know, our people then was just basically mad high scientists, so we didn't really live that type of bestial way of life. We had this balance with nature, but on almost like a super physiological manner. So Shabazz, by the time he come and start promoting what he promoting, he basically promoting that he can basically extend the original man and alter the original man's nose structure, meaning breathing structure, by allowing them to exist in climates that were a little more arid, more different than the climates they had basically traditionally been in. And that he could create a group of people who could live a jungle way of life, but then come back into civilization. This is where you get the lost tribe of Shabazz. But Shabazz and Shabti, right? Same thing. Or Shabakti, right? Same thing. Same thing as the tribe, they call it the Koresh tribe of Shabazz. Well, wasn't David Koresh a cultist leader who, in a sense, was attacked by the United States government because he was preaching that the original black man was going to rise again, and that his followers needed to start to commune with him, and he needed to get as many black women or whatever as possible, and they needed to get as many melanated people as possible around them, just that way they could start empowering them, and that white people need to start to train their children. Start to train their children to start to accept the fact that they're no longer going to be the dominant people on the planet anymore. This is the type of shit this dude was talking about. This don't excuse him. It don't excuse no nigga in the cult. I ain't saying that, but I am saying it makes sense as to why they wanted to run up in there with the guns and burn the houses and all of that down, because whenever there's somebody talking that real, talking that black man God shit, you got to get shut down. The only way you can get sanctioned talking that black man God shit on TV is if somebody co-signing that shit. If you got a Jew from Mossad or somebody that's there to say, you know what I mean, this dude is sanctioned to talk about that. Because these people still trying to preserve what's left of their empire. That's basically on its way out, you know what I'm saying? So, like I said, B'nai B'rith, all of that. You got to understand, there would be no Israel. There would be no Israel. No Israel that you know, the Israeli state if you know it, if there was no more Zionist temple. Zionism did not start by Charles T. Versals and none of them niggas. That shit started in New Jersey. Understand? That just started in New Jersey with the Moorish Zionist temple. And eventually got switched from the Moorish Zionist temple to the Moorish Science temple. Just keep it real. I'm just keeping it real, man. Matter of fact, Hold up, I'm just getting something real quick. That way when I say it, come back up and tell them. I'm going to tell you to do right now. Okay. Yep. Yeah, it was the Moorish Zionist temple. It was from Brooklyn. And in 1899, some books have it different, though. Some books say that it was dated from 1888. But whatever. But it was started by a guy named Rabbi Leon Richelieu, right? Richelieu. And the Moorish Zionist temple, it was called the Moorish Zionist Temple for Moorish Jews in Harlem, and originally in 1929. And the Rabbi Israel Ben Newman was the head rabbi or rabbi. Okay. So again, this is before the State of Israel. We're talking about 1899. You understand? State of Israel wasn't founded until way after that. As well as Charles Sturcell, he wasn't even really consecrated as a Zionist at that time. The so-called protocols for the learned elders of Zion, that shit that they talk about that the Jews created, all of that, they based all of that shit based off the retaliatory aspect of what they was going to do. But they knew that based off what Noble Jali, what the Moorish Zionists was basically doing, was that they were trying to rebuild or uplift Zion. Where is Mount Zion? Mount Zion is in, original Jerusalem, right? Where did the Canaanite temple set up? In New Jerusalem, right? New Jersey, right? So when we say that we are Islamic, you see what I'm saying? We are saying that we are not religious Islam, meaning Sunni. You know what I mean? Or Sunnah like that. That's for somebody else. We are Islamic. If anything, we are Islamic Hebrews or Nubian Islamic Hebrews, the way that Doc was calling us back in the day. Because that's what the Moors are. We are polyspiritual, yet we are monotheistic in application. So we can acknowledge that God manifests in all myriad forms of God, but we still acknowledge that God is God. You understand what I'm saying? I am that I am. So we understand the pantheons and things like that are just glorified additives to add on to the glory of Allah, which is arm, leg, arm, head, which is represented by the five-pointed star. The five-pointed star is the feminine aspect. The six-pointed star is the masculine. So even then when we say Allah, we're referring to the hidden aspect of Allah, which is Allah, which is then the feminine aspect, because all comes in balance. So we get the fact that the Roman Vatican was able to set itself up based on what Noble Jali did. The state of Israel was able to do what they did. There was another rabbi of that. And all of these guys had different orders because the idea was to spread the mysticism. Because the mysticism was the Moorish science. That's what people miss. The mysteries or the mysticism is the allegories that were hidden in parables and riddles by the Moors as they traveled to different areas and different cultures that their antecedents had already set up. But by the time they got there, the country and the people had already went through whatever conversion, whatever they went through. But in that, the Moors were the ones who always maintained the universal nationality, because they were the ones who were always bringing in new science. So back in the days, just like in the book The Alchemist, there were certain things set up for you to go into. The story of Forrest Gump, where you go into the different, when you meet all these famous people, but he's like this lowly cat that nobody would know. That's the story of you. That was a story of how you used to travel the breadth of the empire to come into the full knowledge of who it is you are. That's what Oliver Twist was about. That's what all of these stories is about. the more having to travel all over the world and meet all the different cultures and be raised up to be the number one inside of all of it. Because what he finds out, or what she finds out, is that she was really the founder of it all. Because he never stopped being it. He never stopped being it. We believe that we were denationalized, so we were. You understand? Black people were taught to believe that they were all brought over from Africa as slaves. So a history had to be created around that to support that. It wasn't the direct history, but it was enough of what happened to put somebody in a superior position and somebody in the inferior position. And all you got to do is watch the games in New York when they was bringing in the Caucasian immigrant slaves to come and make Union soldiers to go and depopulate and kill everybody in the South and then rent that land or to kill people that they killed to these foreigners. And then this becomes the generational story that you hear white people say, oh, my father came over here in the 1800s, oh, my family came over here in the 1700s, oh, my family came over here in the 1600s. Anytime white folks telling you that they can date an ancestor going back prior to the 1700s, they talking about a black ancestor they got. They ain't talking about no white man or no Caucasian man. And I wouldn't have to make a delineation or even say something like that if the general consensus was the opposite. You see what I'm saying? Don't get mad at me for making the contention when you already created the unimplied rule that all niggas is stupid and all niggas are slaves. When no scholar can empirically prove to me how somebody who is not Slovenian can be called a slave. How somebody is not something is called something else. Now, granted, that's what's moving the world today. The United States is acting like America. Excuse me, that's not true. Because the United States, they never put itself out there like it was anything else other than the United States. Really, if you really look at shit, they never said they was America. We thought that. And they let us think that. The white boys thought that. The white boys think that because their ancestors came over here and killed off Indians, that somehow that allows them to remain here and be alien and be Americans today. When what your forefather was, you are today. That's what they say. So if their forefather was an interloper and a land thief and a mercenary, right, and a war killer, even if that's not what they're doing today, unless they're doing something to counteract that, they still living off the laurels of what their ancestors did for them. Which, by rules of engagement, they should, because that's what they did it for. As much as white folk like black music and all of that, or whatever, but they don't want the system to end like that. No matter how down they are, no matter how many black kids, no matter how many black chicks give up the box to them, or black men they have sex with or whatever, they don't want the system to end, this system to end what it is like that. Because then what? What does that mean? What does it mean for them? What was they like before they came into power? So that's going to tell you what it's going to be like after. At least we starting to realize how we fell out with each other. Most of the beef that you see going on now with people, it's the thing. It's the paper. I watch this water. It becomes a thing. It's like, what is it? What does it gain? What does it say about it? What does it gain a man if he gains the soul? Gains the world but loses his soul. And that's the problem with this stuff. The problem with Masonry is not Masonry. The problem with Masonry is the fact that it's been used for the past 6,000 years as a means to wrap people up in a false door to protect potentially denationalize future generations from their birthright. And that's not fair. But initially, just like the United States government was initially set up to be a unbiased interface between us and them both, a fact that we would always be preserved and taken care of by it based upon the fact that we put all of our energy and impetus into creating it. Yet we did not create it necessarily for us to be in it the way that they are in it. We created it for them. That would be like you creating a preschool for your children, and then you enroll yourself in the preschool as the person who built it, literally, the adult. They're looking at you like you crazy. You see what I'm saying? And that's how they're looking at us, or they've been looking at us. So one thing Caucasian people learn how to do is answer questions without answering the whole question very early, how they communicate. So they don't really talk about their money. That's why they just got it. But the trust funds and the things like that get set up for them. And this is those Caucasian people that are raised like that, because there are huge tracts of Caucasian people that have no money. That's more broke than you. That's more miseducated than you. And they know it. But again, if the implied agreement is that black people are the shitless ones, they're the 14th Amendment citizens, then we'll act like that's what's going on. But really, the 14th Amendment citizens is only them. They're the ones that's supposed to be checked. Everything you see police doing and all that was the stuff we was doing to them. In the same way you be walking by, white people walk by and they lavish cars and all that other type of shit. It's just like that. It just got reversed. That's what the Emancipation Proclamation did. It became an Emancipio Proclamato, or Emancipato, which is to transfer ownership, to transfer the ownership from one to the next. So the masters of the Moors, some of them chose to stay on into the family based upon the obligation and not want to leave their land, and chose to then become the butler or the indentured servant. And this be the one butler you see amongst the rich white people in their dinner parties and stuff like that. His name always be Solomon or Absalom or Cyrus or some old crazy shit. What slave you name no Osiris? Like why would you name some what they say, some Guinea niggas, some majestic shit like that, when that's the name of the shit that you worshiping in your lodge? That means that means you got Solomon there. But the thing is, Solomon don't know, because he's been buried in his shallow grave. The shallow grave is his own memory. And the widow's son is the woman, right, who is now left by herself, and this time alone is starting to drive her crazy. Look at the black woman, man. Black woman, y'all know. I ain't talking about the sisters that's not bugging. I'm talking about the ones that is. And these are the ones that's throwing salt in the game for the true queens and goddesses that's about to raise these god children into the next reality. They want to cut that relationship off. But the spell with the hair thing is starting to become a conflict now, because people are starting to ask the real questions. How can you really say you love yourself if you don't have your own hair? But again, who's the impetus for this? Why all of a sudden did this stuff become hot? Who made all that hot? Adam C.J. Walker in them, with all of their bleaching and hair care products, right? That was funded by who? The Talented Tenth and the Round Table groups that was going on in the Harlem Renaissance to take energy away from what? The Black Wall Street, which was the underground or the original black economy for quote-unquote black America, the aspect of the government, black government, that was still functioning on a national level. Yet, due to, again, the wheelings and dealings and hating-ass niggas who will work against you just because they don't want you to have what you're supposed to have, they work with your enemy. They work with the cracker against you. Meanwhile, the cracker think he running shit when really this black man know ancestrally what has been going on and how they've been using these white people. You got black people that's dying who then hated themselves so much that's coming back as Caucasian people to stop people in their family, people in their friends, shit like that in their own life. incarnating into bodies of Caucasian people just to throw off the offset of their own black people from coming up. Just like you got some Caucasian people that have been so fucked up in their life, they now trying to incarnate on the opposite, trying to come back in black bodies now and trying to, hook up with some type of black person, but it's a little different vibrationally, because you trying to move up an octave when when you didn't. We didn't earn that. So this is what I'm trying to say. This has become a time when your melanin activeness is really based on your conscious level and what it is you're willing to agree to do and what it is you're not willing to agree to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's either you with it or you not. And unfortunately, things are becoming that black and white. You know what I mean? Or I should say that literal. But see, the devil always want room. He always want room to wiggle around and say, oh, well, it can't be that extreme. And if you coming at it like that, then, you know, you trying to, like, enforce some type of thing, and that's really, like, you know, dictatorial or whatever. And it's like, you know, to each his own, man. You know what I mean? Like, the stuff that I'm reading now is basically saying that this thing was supposed to go into a word-of-mouth thing. So if that's the case, then we doing what we're supposed to do. We are continuing the work as we're supposed to be continued based upon the fact that we are not put in an obligation to swear an oath before some other man when really this other man's oath and him is tied into something else that is now tacitly trying to seek my consent with it, and then by me associating myself with it, now you're trying to root me up into some type of terrorist shit like this whack. It's two different things. It's two different sides of this coin. And one side of the coin has been functioning as if it's been the only side, when it's been using the money side of the part that's been dormant, which is us, literally. So the time is coming where they can't do that, or they're going to have to pay for doing that. And so they want to get as many of us down with the whole thing as possible, so that way they could be like, oh, well, yeah, see, it wasn't just us. You hated yourself and your own people enough. Would you work with us to do this to your people? You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, a crime is a crime regardless. You know what I'm saying? So treason, the treason we're talking about is even beyond a nationality. Because like I said, your nationality, I'm starting to look at it as your original or true nationality is that which represents you in a traditional or direct sense. So, like I said, your free national name, my free national name, Aseer Ali Allah, is just as relevant as Prince Charles Ellery Rogers, L, right? But the L had to be added onto that after I found out what was going on with the name itself. Yet, Owuju Ali was putting out the knowledge about the straw man and the birth certificate and all that in 1929, man. So how my mother ain't know? You know what I mean? How my grandmother ain't know? I didn't find out my grandmother knew what a damn more was. So one day I walked in the crib with the fez on, and she's like, oh, where are you at? Fez? What's up with that? I was like, oh, I'm an L or more. She's like, oh, yeah, I know about the L's and the B's. She's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you ain't know I was Eastern Star? I was like, oh, word? And then that's when it started making sense. Oh, this is why you was putting me in closets. This is why you was on some bullshit. This is why you was on some thinking green. You know what I mean? This is why you was on your little socialite party. Oh, okay. You see? It all makes sense. Everybody that got a Mason in their family, somebody has been abused, sexually molested, something like that. Sorry, it's just the majority. That's just what they do. I already told you why. Anybody that's thinking about getting into that, if they want to know the royal secret, get the show, I think, before the last one we did. We already talked about what it was. So, again, this is the time where all secrets is revealed. This is the time where all orders are supposed to be open. It's supposed to be open, friendly secret societies, like the Vatican. Because that's what the Vatican say it is. That's what it's saying stationary. They tell you. This is an open, friendly secret society. So we open, and we're friendly. You know what I mean? But we are a secret society, which means that we're working against you. And these Caucasians on History Channel that have these pseudo-fake images of these integrated lodges where you see this black man and this Indian man, they ain't like that. Don't believe that. Don't believe that. It's like that in certain places, like at the Great Lodge, 96 degree lodge at 21st Street, and maybe G7 aspects of the G7, but they can't really have you up in there like that. See, when we go back into these places that these people have been doing these satanic rituals in from the past 1700s, from the late 1700s to now, you gotta understand, man, the vibrational frequency of us alone in that place with the constants that we would have to be able to do and conduct business as a nation in that place would automatically free the planet. Automatically. One parliamentary ceremonial confederal joining of the different delegates of the different autochthonous or indigenous or denizen Moorish nations from around the world meeting at a certain time and building what? That's awesome. You know what I mean? You see? You see? Now watch. You're going to respond to it, so I can't even. What's that? Can you imagine if something like that was to happen? That's forget a million-man march, man. That's just the groundwork. You know what I mean? Yet, for something like that to happen, we would have to get past so much and let so much go that a lot of people who have sworn oaths to uphold a lot of these old vendettas cannot. That's cool. So we start to do it through that. This is what I mean. It becomes a stream of narrowing down stream of following and narrowing things down to its apex. And most people don't want to do that. These black people want to stay regular. You know what I'm saying? Most people that are on what it is we've been building on for as long as we've been doing it have created an instance where all we got to do is seriously do it, you know, and people and things are already in play to make that happen. The number one enemy that I'm seeing now is really us, is our own vibration and how it is we're going to come into play with it. So let's get into some calls. Let's see what some of the other people want to build on. Some of the other quick things that went down recently, they just found another Earth. This is like the 75th Earth now that they have found out there. Also that they have found a sun beyond Pluto, what they refer to as the X-planet Pluto, which they're also referring to as Planet X now. So when you're doing the Heru research, watch out because they've been doing things where they flipping Planet X to be Pluto now, being that Pluto was X'd out. Also, or looking at Pluto as Planet 10. So keep that. And something else happened. The Indigenous Act, he did that. Okay, they're killing all the black people in Palestine because Hamas, which is the puppet U.S. Al-Qaeda-sponsored government, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, which is MI6, Mossad, and CIA, is now waging war against Israel. Israel is now trying to attack the Sudan because the Sudan, which was once still has aggression pacts with Egypt, is now trying to force Egypt into a pigeonhole, based upon what they call the Arabic Spring, which is really these fake color revolutions they've been trying to spawn all up and around there. This is all to ultimately destabilize Saudi Arabia and isolate the huge money states. So you gotta understand the Arabs and them out there is the white people out in those places. The Arabs are the ones that's living like white people, enslaving everybody, doing crazy shit like that. You know what I mean? Paying for Beyonce and these people that come over and do rap songs and all of that. These are the white people out there. They're the ones exploiting the Malaysians and the Filipinians, the Filipinians and the Micronesians and the Madagascar people, migrant workers. The same way you got the Mexicans over here. They're the niggas over here. And the Twa Indians, the Twa Dravidian Indians, they got building the skyscrapers because they got the old temple building genes in them. And they exploit that in terms of the money. So, yeah, that's going down. And, again, support real research. And our research is not to offend any people from any specific sex or whatever. It's just really about dealing with the hypocritical aspect of those things that affect us in the overall aspect of where we're trying to go. So we just want to be clear in that we're not talking about everybody that's involved in these things, because not every card-carrying member of MSDFA Temple is a Mason or involved in any crazy shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be easy. So let's get into some calls. See if anybody wants to pop up. 662, you're on Super Heavy Radio.
Hello?
Peace.
Peace. What's up, Aseer?
Peace. How you doing, King?
Doing now. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, how you doing, man? I've been trying to hit you up on Facebook, man. I'm trying to see what's good, man. I'm trying to, get some of this consciousness, man. I've been in the dark for so long, man. It's like, once I started coming into consciousness, I've been kind of fainting for it, man. Like for more information, man. It's hard to really check some sources out, and it's hard to find people that's really willing to work with you, man.
Yeah, it's definitely that's part of it. How long have you been doing the knowledge to stuff?
Yeah, listen, for about maybe 3 years, man. I'm 36, man.
Yeah.
I'm from North. I ain't gonna put my info out there though, but I could kick it with you some other time. But yeah, I've been around. I've been through some of the trials and tribulations, man. But I just what I have noticed though, brother, right? A lot of people in the conscious community, man, they with the debating and I like me personally, I'm not with none of that stuff. I like the information, but certain people information is just the same information that everybody has. And a lot of your information, man, I could tell, bro, you go hard, man, and like I told you, I think I hit you up on Facebook, man. And I told you, once I started listening to, because at first I really couldn't get into the metaphysics. I was still stuck, in fantasy land, man. But then once I started really getting into it, I started yo, man, this got some substance to it, man. This means something, And I've been just going in from there on out, man.
That's what it's about, son. It's about doing you at all costs, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta just do what you need to do to reach your level of excellence. It's not about reaching mine or anybody else's. And the problem is everybody want to do what they see everybody else doing instead of doing what they're supposed to do. And so because what they do is they wind up cloning themselves, they become almost a modernized version, you know what I'm saying, of what they used to be. So you have people that act like you in ciphers that you're not in. And then when you get conscious, like you in the third year, so now you're going through like almost the pseudo-isolation, like you can't really have conversations with certain people because they be really like downstairs or worse. You just see through to people's intentions real quick, and then it becomes...
Yeah. But, you know what you just said? I'm sorry to cut you off, but you know what you just said that was just like real enlightenment? You said the wise man can remember when he was a fool, but a fool can't remember when he was a wise man.
He was a wise man. Yeah, man.
Yo, that's
deep, and that's shit, most of these niggas. They smart, dumb niggas.
Yeah, that letter burner.
Sucking people up into them. You know what I mean? Like people don't know. Like for instance, like Jim Jones, right? Not the rapper, but the white man.
Yeah.
Jim Jones trying to get out of the deal of being a CIA asset. He came clean to Elijah Muhammad. Well, not Elijah Muhammad directly, but to one of the ministers. And one of the ministers brought him to Elijah Muhammad's son, Warif. And Warif was trying to vouch for the nigga and trying to get the nigga into the shit. So he started spilling to Warif what was really going on with the shit. And then Warif started. This nigga, the story is, this nigga started to blackmail this nigga Jones to the CIA, being like, I'm the CIA. Yeah, I'm talking about the nigga that set up Al-Islam, Elijah Muhammad's son.
You said Elijah Muhammad's son? The one that...
the nigga who set up Al-Islam. Yeah, that nigga. Yeah, he came, and he was... When he came and denounced what his father did, it was because he was dealing with a lot of these Sunni Muslims who were a part of, again, another esoteric order that was connected to what I was talking about earlier with this Muslim Brotherhood shit. But that Muslim Brotherhood was different than the Brotherhood that Noble Jew Ali and Randolph and some of the other ones, Black Herman and them, was a part of back in the day. That was totally different. That was the Ansaratic, Asiatic Brotherhood. This Muslim Brotherhood shit was a byproduct of, again, this white, Khazarian, Berlin,
the Catholics, right?
Convert, right? Catholics, nigga, right?
The Catholics fund all of them. They fund.
Right.
You know where I got that from? You know where I got? I don't want to put the info out over the what's it? But I got that from I was listening to some of Phil Valentine, and he was saying that but that was something I found real deep, because you know what I noticed about us is, like, a lot of us, soon as like that little wave come through, you know, you had the 5%ers, you had the Nation of God. Now you got the Sunni Islam. Now everybody want to wear the thick beards and run around.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, to each his own. But let me ask you one question. Did you ever get any info on, you know, the Muhammad was a pedophile? Is that true, or I mean?
They're not talking about the original Muhammad. The original.
No, I'm not talking.
Muhammad.
Yeah, I'm talking about their Muhammad.
You talking about? Nah. See, the knowledge I did was that there was two Muhammad. There was the original Muhammad, Ibn Abdullah, who was the son of Abdullah, the Abyssinian prince, and the Sabaean Queen of Sheba mother from Yemen. Right? Okay. They had a son who was Muhammad, peace be upon him, who then again was a Moor, like a Franciscan Moor, meaning he was like amalgamated, meaning his father was very dark, his mother was kind of like, you know, brown to light. So he came out as a product of that. But when he got into the beef, where did he go? He went to Abyssinia. He went to his father. You know what I'm saying? Because his father was a noble who then helps him get to Medina, where they met the other Moors, and then that's when they went back and took Mecca, right? And then the other Moor, Bilal, right, goes and then calls the first prayer, you know what I mean? And now they consecrate that they're going to set up the pseudo-Islamic, or the quote-unquote Moorish Islamic empire that is now couched the secret of the original man and all of that. Then 200 years after that, though, there was a Turk, a Cypriotic Turk named Musalimiat, or Musalimiamat, the liar, they used to call this dude. They called him. And he created, or they created around him, a version of the story of Muhammad, and that's where these white pictures of these white Arabs, you always see these white Arabs that look like Chinese people that they show you from like the 1200s and stuff, these illuminated manuscripts. That was patterned after these Arabs that was now who made what was called the New Covenant between themselves and a group called the Templars, who were, again, Franciscan Moors, the Grand Masters, and then under them were these Caucasoid Freemasons that were fighting for their own freedom under the tutelage of these mystic Turks, and then under them they the Templars. So the slaves get together, this white man slave get with this Arab type of white man slave and say, look, we're going to recognize each other when we come up as the Orthodox, and we're going to look at the overlord, the Moors, as our slaves. And we'll both endorse each other's history on that. And we'll hook up every other race that want to apply for the status that I'm going to take in the position. Me, white man, I'm going to take the main position, though. And then the one say, okay, I'll do it. I'll back you. And then they do that. Okay. And then they try something called the League of Nations, right, where they try to funnel this to the world based on a science that they created 80 years before that called eugenics now, which is a fake science to prove that they're superior to everybody else in the world because they had already bombed out the old Moors and old Europa, which is the old history and the old records and shit from World War I and the Crimean War. So by World War II, they already propped Hitler up, and he following the Dual Society that's funded by the Kaisers, but the Kaisers are the Moors descended from the white Moors from the black Moors that they bleached out. So in order for them to have a German state, they got to keep these niggas alive, but then they still got to justify Hitler, you see? So it's all this political meandering while George Bush or Prescott Bush is playing for all of this shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I go deep with them. Yeah. And you know what? I was actually, like one of the brothers, they had a picture of his whole family, or like the Bush family, and they were saying that shirt. Yeah, the shirt. They were saying that he wasn't a Bush, that he was that his father was next to him in that room, and in order for him to get them over here in the United States, that him and Prescott, it's a long story. I really don't want to really go into it, but I know the end result is that somebody gave him the name Curious George. Did you hear that story?
You talking about Tesla.
Yeah. He called. I didn't want to put his name out over what's his name because he said he always called him in his office.
Einstein. Yeah, that's public record now. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like all that shit, like that's public record. Like that's Einstein was an implant. He was a Jewish spy for the Germans, and he got out with paperclip. And because he was an intern with Tesla, he was able to inform on him, and he's the one who got Prescott in there. George Sherp in there, and he called him Curious George because he always caught that nigga ruffling through his things. And then after that is when they attacked Elijah Muhammad, right? Stole that briefcase from him. And then after that, that's when Oppenheimer gets in, an insurance salesman gets in, and they create the atom bomb. Wow. They took Tesla's knowledge, they took Elijah Muhammad's wisdom about how to split the original man and the graft in the Yakub, and then set up the whole shit. And then split the atom, split the black gene from the brown gene, right? Yeah. And then killed not the Germans that it was created to kill, but they killed the Japanese. The black Japanese that was concentrated in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Heru, right?
Hiroshima, yeah.
Right? And Ma, which is like more or mu. So again, man, Nagi or Naki, which is black. Again, it's always about that Naga, right?
Yeah.
Like they know, son. Like they know. But I want to say peace and thank you for calling, man. I just got to get to somebody else. But I
Yo,
appreciate
peace,
it,
man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, bro. I'll catch you some other time.
Jay, Lord. Indeed, Jay.
All right, my dude.
Peace. Two. You on Super Heavy Radio?
Aseer, is this you?
Peace.
How you doing, my bro?
I'm good, King. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm hanging in there, man. I'm soaking up all the information. Got a couple questions, man. I always got questions.
Thanks for calling, man.
Hey, I thank you for being so informative, you know. As you know, I'm in the 702 area code.
Right.
Out here, you know, you got the, you know about the Luxor, right?
Right.
You know, it's a pyramid. The way they have it set it up is jet black. To my understanding, the pyramids in Giza, one of them was black, and I don't know if it was the smallest one or the biggest one.
Well, you could say all of them. You could say wherever they have it black.
Mhm. And then they have.
Ain't no white man ever done no pyramid. Ain't no Mexican.
Yeah, but you know they if you watch the History Channel,
already thousands of years old before they got to them.
Yeah, they try to say, well, you know, the European want to make you think that aliens built these pyramids, but it's just it's a coinky dink that they have Area 51 right out here where they got this pyramid.
Yep. And then they got Area 52 in Jersey.
Area 52 is in Jersey?
Yep.
I didn't even know that, my brother. But at the same time, it's little things that they do that are symbolic. Like it's so much energy out here in Vegas as to the reason why they call it Sin City. It's like the energy out here, you can tell it's a lot of rituals going on.
A lot.
I mean, you can feel it.
A lot.
But yet and still, my main thing, man, I just try to focus on who I am, man, because you can go so deep into this literature, and when you get to the core of this literature, you find out that it's a European standing there. You know, and a lot of people try to articulate and try to, you know, enunciate their words and this and that, but all you're doing is when you're talking as an African American and when you're trying to express yourself clearly, you're just saying words that these people sat around in the table and put these words together. So, I mean, before all this happened, I mean, like, just look at the hunter-gatherer, man. You know, they had their language. Who's to say that, you know, the way that they expressed themselves wasn't as intelligent or even more intelligent?
It was more intelligent because it was more honest. Right?
So, I mean, it's not really about the words, because if it's about an expression, the one thing I know is that the heart expresses itself more than anybody that I've ever heard put a word out of their mouth. I mean, I truly believe the Creator don't even recognize words. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, there's no way that I can honestly believe that when I speak words clearly to the Creator, that's what the Creator is recognizing. It's a feeling.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's the intent behind the word is what makes the word actually mean something. You know?
Exactly,
so
man.
It's definitely, and yet expression, I think, is also at the core of what it is we're all trying to get at. And expressing yourself, however you express yourself, if it's true, then that's how it's supposed to be. Even if I don't agree with it, if somebody telling me the truth, then I'll accept it. You understand what I'm saying? It's only when niggas want to create an alternate version of what they want me to believe when it's not like that it becomes a problem for me. You dig what I'm saying? So I don't really have a problem, me personally, with what niggas want to say or how they want to be perceived, so long as it does not alter what I know I'm here to do.
Exactly.
So if somebody wants to goad me into a confrontation or try to isolate me out of a conversation, I might initially try to engage that. But once I see that this is something that's done to either hurt me or by purposely excluding me, which then wants to then create in me some type of insecurity that then wants to force myself to become a part of something. You know what I mean? That's why people become agents and shit too. Because they may feel like they've been scorned, so they want to punish you, and so they'll work with your enemy to destroy you. And that's really where these black devils and these black masons and these niggas is really in. Because they being black now. And because they forgot their own history, they've almost blocked out of their mind that they trained this crack and that they really sick this cracker on us. That's what I'm starting to think.
They stick the cracker on you every day. As a matter of fact, they stick the cracker on you but don't realize that you the cracker's most powerful weapon when you sicking the cracker on the next black person.
Because it's always been used. It's always been put in a position of usury. So this is new for us. It's new for us to be in a position of not having shit, of being at the bottom of, not having money and shit like that. So
but what is? I'm overstepping you. But
I was just saying, what that is just like a evidence that we have reached a point where we're about to go into something much higher and may not need all of the trappings of what this physical thing exists. Yet, it doesn't mean then that because you're spiritual and conscious that you shouldn't have money and that you shouldn't be successful in whatever it is you do. You should be successful and have money and everything you can do. It's just that to really be in your true person here, most people feel they have to make ultimate compromises.
Just to say that they've established themselves. I mean, like, the true establishment, man, is really just having a connection with the Creator. You think that because you don't have success monetarily that you're not doing anything, but I mean, what is money, and what is basically what is all this? All of this is a distraction.
What it is though, what money is though, is access, and it's a manner. It's another key to this reality that you can use to get more out of it while you're here. And that's why they marginalized it where we couldn't get it, because you got to remember, like, our people at one time, before July 3rd, 1882, wherever you was at, you could be brought to the head of whatever family, whatever society, whatever, and get money. Just get money for being there. People would just give you money to teach them and talk to them and tell them stories.
As a gift.
Yeah, just because they know that you represent the original government of the world, like the original world government that let everybody come up. And there's still some white people all over the world. When I say white people, I'm talking about black white people, Chinese white people, Puerto Rican white people.
White has nothing to do with color, man.
That want to help you. But then there's also the opposite. There's also black white people, white people, Asian white people who don't want you to come up, because that would mean then that they would not have nothing no more. You see what I'm saying? Because they've been acting like us.
That's why they have secret societies.
These white Cubans after they hit Castro and shit, because this nigga was empowering black Cubans, the dark people. And this is the unseen thing in the Latin community that they're going to have to deal with. They fucking racist ass. And the fact that they've been politicking to be the new white people. And I know, because I'm out here. I'm seeing these niggas at the playground. I'm seeing it from where it starts, the child. I'm seeing the children don't even know. They attracted but then repelled at the same time because their parents been trying to be like, been bleaching and all this other shit when their grandmother and the nanny and shit darker than me. But they like to feel like they different. And these are the people who descend from the Portuguese and the original Brazilians. These are the original Romans who created this system of calling people by different names and shit and getting them locked up with shit and taking people here and putting them here and moving these people here and moving them there. And then pretty soon everybody's from somewhere else. So now everybody got to claim where they at. And then some people say, you know what, we're going to start over right now. We're going to create a new republic now. That's what happened in Haiti. and they created an empire. Like, people don't know that Haiti, there's an imperial flag, meaning like Haiti had an empire in the Caribbean. And these people playing. So when you see these Haitians that's Roman Catholic and these Africans is Roman Catholic and all of that, all of those is the new slaves. That's the new slaves into the future.
Oh,
so these are the new white people be dealing with this shit.
Most definitely. I mean, I see niggas hanging from trees and they still walking around amongst me, man.
Yeah, man, they doing all types of crazy. Dude, we're not doing that here. That phase went through America and what they call the Wild Wild West and all of that, where they forced us into different positions. But thank you for calling, man. We got to get to somebody else before we close out. I appreciate it, man.
No problem, my bro.
For real.
Take care of yourself, my bro.
You as well, man. Love and light.
Thank you.
See. Peace. 516. That's Super Heru Radio.
Peace, brothers. Ed from Strong Island.
Hey, what's up, King? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How's everything over there?
Maintaining, man, one day at a time. What's going on with you?
Chilling, man. Chilling. Loving the show, man.
Thanks, man.
I wanted to bring up, like a week or two before the election, I saw on your Facebook page somebody shared a link to this law firm that's like suing the banksters.
Yeah.
I don't know if you checked that out.
Yeah, I saw that with the class action suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was an MSNBC link, and I checked it out. Like a few days later, it was gone. You know what I mean?
See,
they took it down.
See? They wiped it.
Crazy, yeah.
It's coming out too frequent, man. Too much shit. Because see, the thing too now with the internet. You know what it is about the internet is that they can't really tell you where the information is coming from.
Right.
Like, they don't know where it's coming from. They don't know. It's not like when they turned the internet on, like, it was like they was just the only ones in there, and then, like, they just built it up. The more somebody else got a computer somewhere, and then you saw a little light, and then pretty soon, you know, it didn't happen like that. When they turned the shit on, it was already on. It was already in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they don't really know, like, where it's coming from because it's Akashic. So so in that they can't really stop information from going onto it. They don't know even where it's coming from to stop it. Like, I'm gonna post a map of what they said this shit look like. It should look like a circulatory system. How are you gonna block that? How are you know what I mean? Like, even if you said, okay, we're gonna put a block on the internet, we're gonna put the kill switch on the internet, and everybody in America won't be able to use it at 12 o'clock. Okay, that'll work until 12:15 when little Timmy with the new iPods find out some next way to hack into the shit and turn the shit back on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. They don't have to. We saw that shit in war games. A little kid started that shit. That shit don't even work. They don't even know how that shit works. They don't know how none of this shit works. And what's worse, they running out of oil to fund all this shit. That's the other thing. This oil. It's not for what you think. Oil is what's fueling all of these guns and these atomic bombs and these silos that's keeping the nukes cool, so that way they don't overheat and blow up in the silos and in the cornfields in Nebraska and shit. Like, they running out of oil for all of that. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, that's why they're trying to put this pipeline through the whole country. You know what I mean? But they can't even agree to do that. There's more people that's voting for weed than want lower oil or this pipeline that would actually save them money. More people want to have legalized weed than that. There's people that's willing to, like, literally, like, walk. I was watching one thing that said this whole couple, they're going to be naked until weed is legalized in all 50 states. So, like, you know how rich white people do. So they just walk around, they just naked all the time, talking about free weed, smoking weed all day. Like, this is what I mean. Like, America's whatever you want it to be now. Like, they don't even have a, you know what I mean? Like, when it comes out that, like I said, this thing. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna get the link and then post it on my thing, where they said that where the police and that the the state governments are all private corporations, and that they should now seek their own private institutions and insurance to indemnify themselves against the landslide of lawsuits and stuff that's going to happen to them after this. This is going to be a wrap. Everybody, that means every police in the country, like we've been saying, we ain't had a cop or a judge in this country since 1791. That means every one of these dudes has been a terrorist. You know what I mean? You know how like they say the terrorists, but they really talking about them? You know what I mean? Well, that's what they do. That's what they do with their own shit. When Bush was like, yes, the evildoers, we're gonna get them. They don't care. They'll just kill anybody. And you just know that he talking about them, but there's no way we can really like come out and say, yo, he talking about himself. Because now all of the white people in the audience, oh, you're crazy. That's probably. Meanwhile, they all in on it. Like that's how shit is really running, man. They all know. They all know, man. Like that shit they get screened on by Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, man. In New York, this nigga, this old ass white man, because he been boning and beating these black bitches up for the past 25 years, because you know that's all he do. He get black bitches and beat them up. He used to beat up Tukey Smith. He beat up the last chick he was with. You know what I mean? Like that's shit. Like beat up black women. Anyway, black chick he with also somehow honorary fireman, whatever. Anyway, here go this old ass nigga. He shitting on Jay-Z because Jay-Z ain't called him back to do some whack movie he want to do. And they said he really was going in. We had somebody that was there was calling us after the shit. Was like, yo, this nigga was really going in on this nigga. This nigga just sat there and took it. That's all Masonic, man.
Yeah, I saw that, son. Getting sun.
Sun shoot. You know what I mean? So how you gonna make records about you hard and you watching the throne and you all of this with over? You could be like that with me, right, nigga? But when it comes to this white man, like 50 Cent, like did you see that movie that they did where that righteous kill shit, whack ass movie where they shot 50 Cent in the head and threw his ass out the window?
Oh man.
Like this is how they be doing these niggas, and these niggas be salivating for these roles and they don't be going nowhere. They shot this nigga that threw him out the window like he was like garbage, like, and then like walked over the nigga like it was done, like he's really a shit. And that's what I mean. They always need to take you at your highest. It's like the strongest, most virile black man at the time. They get you in a dress like they do with The Rock and all that shit. But what I'm saying is that they don't force these niggas. These niggas be feeling like they got to do that behind some Prince Hall ritual that's actually really not even a Prince Hall ritual. It's actually like some pseudo Blue Lodge Christian shit. It's actually Scottish. You know what I mean? Prince Hall ain't even that anymore. They got it on some whole other shit. But again, they'll say that we don't know and we're crazy because we're not in it. So unless we're willing to take the oath, then we're just talking crap.
Meanwhile, we do the knowledge and we know just as much as we do. Like, all the knowledge is out there.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So where's the lodge, really? To me, the lodge is out here in the world. You know what I mean? The world is the lodge, son. That's how we used to do it. The longhouse was in the woods. They said that the longhouse in Manhattan went on for miles. They said it was a longhouse that stretched for over 30 miles. And we built this thing. So if you imagine, like Manhattan, full of vegetation, and like in the middle of that is this giant, almost like warehouse thing, like a hangar, almost like a Air Force hangar, but it goes on for like 25 miles. Can you imagine that shit? And then like every 5 miles, there's like totem poles on either side of this shit. Can you imagine?
That's us right there, fam.
That's what I'm trying to say, guys. Like, these niggas got it twisted. Like, they got us trying to go and join up with them and get their degrees. These niggas was coming over here to get our degrees. Like, we got to get it back to that. We got to flip the whole shit back to a point where, like, we're like, okay, well, yeah, I'll acknowledge you. What are you going to provide for the nation in return for that acknowledgement? That's where we got to get to.
Indeed.
Until then, niggas is playing, man. But what's sad is that we don't even have there's no like real basic protocols, and there's protocols in place to exercise that. Yet to do that in a mass collective basis is kind of crazy. I think it would have to happen in a more individualized basis that would then cohesively create the apparatus to then move people into that, as opposed to saying, this is the new movement, jump onto that. Like, you can't do shit like that. We almost can't even name the shit. You know what I mean?
Too many niggas
That's
looking
how,
for a leader, fam. Like that, I agree with you in how we really gotta fight with each other. That's the most concrete way of letting these niggas know, like, yo, shit is real out here.
For real, like it's not a joke. Like the woman who consecrated Selena Empress and Mia Duke, she really comes from royalty. Like, she's the same goat. She comes from a Malian mystic, goes-on family, man. This is the chick that consecrated a fool, and this dude found her teachings and then did whatever they did with it. But to the point where the homie now is on a plane to Afghanistan. Peace to him. He was supernova small. But, you know, it is what it is.
Or
So does that mean that the knowledge itself was somehow lost with the brother? Or does it mean that we are now, because this is reflective of all of us, too. You know what I'm saying? Take it out of just being him. He know what we know. You dig what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
So either way, love it or hate it, he's the greatest ally and the greatest enemy all at the same time. And this is the position that we ancestrally have been in for the past 250 years, and we got to get up out of that. We can't be making these deals anymore and taking these oaths no more that put us outside the kingdom of the Creator. Because all that does is make us worship some king when we were all kings here, man.
Indeed.
I mean, like that image that you found of the eagle in St. Paul's Church, that was just a validation of the whole shit. I've been talking for years about that shit. I ain't never seen it. You know what I'm saying? But then, boom, here you go. St. Paul's Cathedral, boom, now you see, oh, yeah, it was a turkey before. It was a wild turkey. You know what I'm saying? What's everybody's favorite Scotch whiskey besides Jack Daniels? Wild turkey, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, it is what it is, man. You know, but thanks for calling, man. I appreciate it.
You already know, fam. And to all the listeners, just please sign up for the classes, please. It's real. So much is worth it. Straight up.
Thank you, man. Thank you,
man.
I appreciate that.
You already know. Peace.
Love and light, King. So with everybody, I want to say peace and thank you for calling in and thank you for participating in the dialogue, of course. Love and light to you. If anybody wants to send donations, you can go to PayPal and donate to dukeoftears@gmail.com. That's dukeoftears@gmail.com. To holler at me directly for readings, lectures, bookings, workshops, book signings, musical performances, art, whatever, consultations, whatever. You can email me at houseofel@hotmail.com. That's HOUSEOFEL@hotmail.com. You can check us out check out www.Aseer, thedukeoftears.com, as well as www.darkscope418.com. www.blackmambaworkouts.com and www.cookingmorewithless.com. So with that, love and light, bless the dead. Also, bless the dead, the great seafood, the great master, Robert Duncan, passed. We want to give respect and praise to him as he travels to the ancestors to be with Bodhi Harma. And may he be a great warrior to ascend us and help us in these trying times. And may he be with Ma'at with a swift sword, ready to come to our aid and the aid of the babies he was always a proponent and a great instructor of. We'll miss you. Peace.
Peace.